but it's more than 2 or 3. I know that. There's also the complacency that comes with, top level gear, top level training. Now you think you're Iron Man and you go in guns a-blazing and life's going to hand you your ass on a platter.
Right. And I just don't, I think that I wasn't comfortable doing this until I was 10 years into it. That's when I felt like things were becoming reflexes.
Yeah.
And
if you're going to phone it in, you really got to consider your options because the complacency will kill you.
Right. And it was kind of like throwing that balled up piece of paper into that wastebasket in your office. And it had gotten to the point where, I could just throw it from behind my back on the phone and get it in.
Mm-hmm.
But then the world moves the wastebasket.
Right. Well, and again, being able to throw it over your shoulder and it goes in, that's not a bad thing. Planning around that and expecting that without any negative outcome, that's where the bad thing comes into play.
Right.
The janitor came in and moved it a foot to the side.
Right.
All right. Now you're going to have words with the janitor because I know you and I've seen your office, but it doesn't change the fact that you now missed. When somebody's life hangs in the balance, you need to adjust your approach a little bit.
But the difference with age and time and experience and modify complacency with experience is that you come in, you see it's moved, you sit down, you bounce it off the wall and still get it in.
Right.
Because you've been there before.
Exactly. And that's good. That's planning ahead.
Right.
That's seeing a situation and adapting to it. And, those are good things. And that can only come with experience, or you have an eidetic memory and can memorize the geometry of the room or something. But I'm not there, so I need to go with experience.
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the things that has been eliminated, doesn't happen, is there's no mentoring, because the older generation has a bug up their butt, and I'll put myself in that category in many ways. And the younger generation has this digital arrogance where everybody's graduated from YouTube University, and the older generation is more back in my day, and the new generation is, well, I have it right here on my phone. And there's no middle ground where there's mentoring in between. And the older generation really has to say, look, I'm willing to help you learn if you put down the phone and learn. And the younger generation says, if you will stop telling me stories about things that happened when the earth was cooling and we could focus, I would love to learn from you.
Yeah.
And we need to mend them. There's no interactive skills, and there's no team building, or something is missing.
It's almost like there needs to be a translator in the middle there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because I love the internet. The internet is one of the best tools at our disposal if it's used appropriately.
Right.
Everything you ever want to know about anything that has ever happened is there somewhere. You got to get the sieve out and sift through all the BS and know what's good information and what's bad information. And I don't know that that's 100% possible. You can get lucky most of the time. I mean, I replaced a radiator in my Tahoe the other week. I had to check on something. I checked a couple YouTube videos. The first couple were absolutely wrong, and the people should be smacked with a trout.
Right.
The one that I found, I think it was the third one, was absolutely what I needed. Doesn't mean the information was wrong, just wasn't what I needed. One of the guys was a complete idiot. Neither here nor there. You got to have the common sense about you to be able to sift through it and not make the left at Albuquerque and end up somewhere you shouldn't be.
But see, what they don't understand, having been just raised on this, they don't understand the difference between information, knowledge, and experience. They think information is experience, and it isn't.
It is for the person giving it. It's not for the person receiving it.
No. And that's what they don't get. That's a single downfall of a generation on this powerful medium.
Absolutely.
That's a single downfall, in my opinion.
And like any other tool, the internet is as good as you will allow it to be.
Right.
It's not going to be 100% all of the time. If you expect it to be, you're going to fail.
And I think you can tell.
Hell, it's not even up all of the time, you know?
Well, I have no problem with people taking shortcuts and doing things in these other ways if they have some experience doing it the hard way. Like, I know it's absolutely not fathomable, but I think that everybody should have, a 75 Plymouth Duster in the winter and deal with finessing a car and canoodling it to get it to go where you want, and knowing that you have to watch the weather to know how your car is going to run tomorrow, And I think
when I first started out driving, we would go into a parking lot in the snow, and whoever was teaching me, my father at the time, would put it into a spin.
What was your first car?
The first car that I learned in was actually a 1985 Audi 5000.
What was the first car you owned?
That I purchased with my own money was 70 Dodge Duster.
Dodge Dart.
Duster.
No, Dart. Dodge made the Dart, Plymouth made the Duster.
Okay, then it was a Plymouth. Either way, it was the Duster.
Plymouth Duster.
Great car. You could beat the snot out of that thing and it would just come back for more.
Slant six?
Yes.
Yeah.
I have to remember each of the cars. My favorite was my 70 Camaro. That thing I loved. And I didn't have to worry about all the emissions crap on it. And you didn't need a degree in computer science to change the oil.
Yeah, but if somebody threw a cup of water on the turnpike, you had to pull over,
Oh, well, yeah. Or when you blew the motor, you had to replace it. It's, yeah.
1 inch of snow and you're crippled,
Oh, no, I used to drive that thing all over the place in the snow.
But again,
but I grew up learning how to drive in the snow.
Right.
So it's, not like today. I mean, today, the tires break loose. People don't know what to do. Car spins, you hit something.
Yeah.
We tried to avoid it back in the day. Of course, back in the day with the 70 Duster, if I spun out and hit a tree, I backed up and drove home.
Right.
You don't do that in today's vehicles. Now you scrap the vehicle and buy a new one.
I saw a picture or something where somebody at an 80s Capri, somebody had ran into the side of it with a new $250,000 car, and the car had accordion and the Capri store had maybe $100 worth of damage or something.
I also had I got it from my grandfather. It was a 1970 Mercury Montego. And very, very pointy front end.
Right.
And I did spin out with that one time and hit a tree. And I backed up.
And that was a two-door, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was an indentation in the tree about that big where the front end went in. And I just had to wipe some sap off of the car and I drove home. That thing was incredible.
I just saw something the other day, and I don't know how they're going to do this. I don't know how they're going to litigate these things. People falling asleep in a Tesla on autopilot. How do they handle that? I mean, if there's an accident, who's responsible?
Flip a coin. Because there's a couple of ways to look at that from my perspective. A, did they fall asleep because of the autopilot, or did they fall asleep because they were tired? If they fell asleep because they were tired, you could argue, how many accidents did the car prevent before it actually hit something?
Well, my thing is that most of the pictures I've seen of people in videos of them driver and passenger passed out, it was like, I don't think that's just sleep.
Yeah.
I think that's a little, some substance or something.
There were stories back in the early 80s that I remember, guy bought a Winnebago and it had cruise control. So he put the cruise control in, went in the back and took a nap and drove off a cliff.
Right.
Is it true? I don't know. It's absolutely possible because, again, people are stupid. But, it's okay if they fell asleep because they have the auto driving capability. You could point the fingers at Tesla. Whether that'll stand up in a court, I have no idea. But yeah, we're in new territory with some of that stuff.
But is it like high-tech Gore-Tex and winter wear that is allowing people to go further beyond their capabilities and get
in deeper,
and they can't get back? That's
very
my fear with the technology.
I think the perk with the Tesla specifically is the fact that it has a limited driving range, which is going to put the kibitz on some of the stupid actions.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm anxious to see where that kind of stuff goes because
I think it needs a dead man switch on it, just like the Subway.
Absolutely. Well, and the Tesla actually does. If you take your wheels off, your hands off the wheel for a certain period of time, it will eventually shut down.
But like this one, it was just, they were showing, it flashes a warning and tells you.
Yeah, or the steering wheel vibrates.
But I just think that if
it needs a pole to come out of the seat or something.
Yeah, the seat needs to heat up to like 800 Kelvin or something and just incinerate you or something.
Yeah, and at least that way there's nothing to hit something with.
Right. It just pull right over and give the car to someone else and blow your ashes out.
But and I mean, the idea behind an entirely autonomous vehicle is amazing. I mean,
and these aren't autonomous vehicles. That's what people don't like.
Well,
they're assisted.
I think that's where you're going back to the guy getting in the back with the cruise control.
Yeah.
Totally misunderstanding the point behind it.
Right.
It's assisting you so you're not up with your hands on the wheel with all the blood rushing to your shoulders, whatever. The autonomy, though, is, I think, what's going to save the human race from car accidents.
Right.
Computers are infallible. It's only once we start programming them that they become fallible.
We'll be able to more efficient driving. We if we were fully autonomous, we wouldn't need traffic lights.
Correct.
You know,
we wouldn't need traffic control devices of any sort.
But who's ultimately responsible? What happens? It's tough. Now, like things, there's
blame Adam and Eve. They started this.
Yeah, it's their mess. But you have things where you have people that have things that have helped implementations. Like, I don't fully agree with Uber and Lyft in a model in that a taxi cab has to pay $250,000 or used to for a medallion, whereas they can just go do it.
Yep.
But I think on the other hand, there's statistics that support they've done more to cut down on drunk driving accidents than every, traffic stop put together.
I have mixed feelings on that. One is preventing drunk driving.
Right.
Or giving you an option to not. The other is enforcing the people that are stupid enough to do it. So it's actually kind of looking at two metrics there. I agree with the sentiment behind it. I think it's kind of mixing metaphors, though.
I think I've seen where I work. I've seen, and what I consider like a legitimate metric for it is I've seen where people will get an Uber or a Lyft, and they will go home that night and leave their car. That's where I think they made a good adult decision, and I think that's helped because it's taken the place of calling your friend in the middle of the night and taking the
who may or may not show up,
right?
Who may or may not himself be drunk.
Right.
There was a meme on Facebook. It said, I was so drunk last night, somebody recommended I take the bus home. Turns out that was a bad idea. I can't drive a bus. And I'm like,
I remember
the world really is that dumb sometimes.
Years ago, you guys were on standby for us, and it was because we were at an event. I forget where it was. We were at an event in Harrisburg or something, so she could be on standby. Well, we got a search call, and I forget who it was. I think it was Brian I reached, but you guys were at a wedding or something, and people were drinking. And
actually, I think that was my brother's wedding.
Yeah. I said, do you not know what standby means? We're further away, but you guys are all juiced up.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, but I think
I think it was only Brian and I that were at that wedding, though. Nobody else from the team at least was at that particular. They might have still been drunk somewhere, but
yeah, well, that was pretty much the brains of the team. I didn't need the spleen. I needed the brains.
Valid point.
I need the brains. There's a lot of spleen and not a lot of brains.
Well, and that was the thing that really stank about that team. We had some real talent come through that group, just never all at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, there were when we were at the height of our abilities, we had probably 35 on paper and we could field 25.
Yeah.
And it didn't last extremely long because it's the nature of the business. People drift in and drift out. But there was some serious talent that came through those doors.
Can you imagine if in volunteer organization, whatever, if you could put that talent from all those eras together?
Oh, wow.
It'd be like Avengers Endgame, that last battle.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you could get everybody together.
Or, handpick your team kind of thing.
Right. If you could, I mean, there's always been talent, but it comes and it goes. And, you always, I mean, it comes down to the same thing all the time. You've got an organization